Welcome back to Montreal Connected. The Montreal Canadiens are a month into their regular season, so we've invited Ted Bird and Sean Gordon to give us their report cards. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hi, Ollie.
Gentlemen, what are your initial impressions after this first month of play?
Well, I thought before the season that they were going to be a second-tier playoff team, a 4 to 8 kind of playoff team with upside. And I think that's what we've seen so far. And as a bonus, some of the upside has arrived early. Brendan Gallagher, Alex Galchenyuk, Lars Eller, even Rafael Diaz, PK Subban, guys who are, I think, ahead of where you might have expected them to be in their career so far. And that's been timely because of the injuries.
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, I don't know that we've really seen the real Montreal Canadiens at this point. And I think that, the question was going to be, could they white knuckle their way through the injuries, which were inevitably going to hit? They've hit a little sooner and maybe a little deeper than anyone might have expected, but they've actually done pretty well so far. And I think if they can make it through the real tough part of their calendar, of their schedule here against all these Western teams in the first 2 months of the season, then they'll probably be all right. And I think that we're in a situation where it's a team that's older, that's gotten a little bit more maturity and a bit more experience in the league, particularly with the young guys you were talking about, and that really seems to understand what it is that Michel Therrien wants them to do.
Well, the egg line, as some in the press box have
They
labeled it.
I know. Which is, of course,
who came up with that? I don't want to out anybody.
I can't recall. It sounds like suspiciously like a Twitter thing, but of course, never say you hate it, because now that's all we're going to call them, right?
I mean, anyway. Of course, we're talking about Eller, Galchenyuk, and Gallagher for our viewers at home. They've been impressive. Sean, what do you like the most about this line?
They just know where each other are on the ice. I mean, it's one of those weird things that develops with hockey players that you can't predict, and you can't necessarily bottle it or know when it's going to happen, when it's going to switch on, when it's going to switch off. But these guys just have a feel, and they know where everyone's going to be. Is it personal affinities? I don't know. It's just, it works. And they had said in training camp, we would very much like to be contending for first line, top line minutes. And they are. I mean, when Barry Trotz says that you're the top line, and Todd McClellan and guys like that, well, guess what? You're the top line.
And I find that even when Therrien broke that line up briefly, he pushed the right buttons, and he kept the winger sets together and moved the centers around during that road trip out west, and that seemed to get other guys going who weren't going. And once that that was in place, he put the three of them back together again, and now they're, they've tailed off, but I find they're still creating chances, and as long as you create chances, you're going to, you're eventually going to put them in.
And the genius of this team, of course, is that if you try and shut down one of the lines, and they're getting top pairing, they're getting best defensive centers and all this other sort of stuff, well, it opens up more opportunities for other people on the ice.
And Therrien's been true to his word this season about rewarding players with ice time. And we've seen that with Eller.
For the most part.
Although I wonder
David Desharnais still gets
ice
time.
That debate is a whole other panel to itself. We'll be back again next week with that one. So much was said about whether it was a make or break season for Carey Price. What do you think of his performance so far, Ted?
Well, this is the guy we've been waiting for since he was drafted 5th overall in, 2005? 8 years ago. This is the guy we've been waiting for, and the difference, and I don't pretend to know the intricacies or the subtleties of goaltending technique, but to my eye, and Sean can probably speak to this more because he watches the games from the press box, so he can isolate on Price. But what I see is a guy, the body language is completely different. Yeah. He oozes confidence. He's like the running back who wants the football. Mm-hmm. He doesn't fight the puck anymore, he embraces it. And if he's not going into the butterfly more often, he's at least staying there for a lesser period of time and getting back up and into a more tenable position.
He just seems more comfortable, and I think a lot of that is working with the new goaltender coach, Stéphane Waite, and I think that one of the briefs, I guess, or remits was for him to really be calmer in the crease, and he is. And I think he's actually still figuring stuff out. He's going to get better, and he hasn't actually assimilated everything that Stéphane wants him to do, but you're right. I mean, it's, whether it's pressure for the Olympics or it's just that's where he's at in his career, maturity-wise and all this stuff, he looks as good as he's ever looked.
He certainly made himself the front runner for Sochi.
I think there's no question about it.
All right, quickly before we go, who's been the biggest surprise?
I'm going to go with Bourneval.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's getting more ice time than he was probably expecting due to the injuries, and he seems to make things happen. When he's out there, you notice him, and you notice him in a good way.
I'm not going to pick a person. I'm going to pick the penalty kill. That was the thing that killed this team last year. And it's been very good this year, and I don't know who deserves credit. Presumably it's one of the assistant coaches, or perhaps it's Terry himself. But they've fixed whatever needed to be fixed there, and it's made a huge difference this year.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, Ted.
Thanks.
See you both again next week.
All right.